This is Player 1,
This is Player 2.
and you're listening to another great show only on the Four-Eyed Radio Network.
The Third.
For more great shows, check out www.foureyedradio.com.
Hi, this is Kyle from Arcade Bros. If you're like me, you like a little joy in your life. We're proud to present that we are sponsored by America Joy Print Shop. If you need cut vinyl, store lettering, business printing, forms, card magnets, and anything else printing needs, America Joy is the one for you. When you contact America Joy, just tell them the Fern sent you.
I need a sandwich. I'm hungry. I am Fat Man.
You sick, twisted fiend!
Hey,
Oh, so I see you brought the entire party.
why
didn't
would you feed a man before throwing him out of a plane?
Because it's better than him trying to sink or swim.
Peanuts.
The size of a tangerine.
The size of...
Where is he?
Rattle the cage.
You rattle the cages. Cages were
I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
You ever wonder how I got these scars?
Did you get him at Applebee's?
No. Those were the appetizers.
All they needed was a little push.
And then...
Marinara sauce.
I don't know where we're going with that.
Hi guys, welcome to the Long Box Cast episode 4. This is your host Kyle with his sidekick Steve-O.
I am nobody's sidekick. You diabolical banana fana bobana fiend!
Our podcast is...
Holy Toledo's Batman.
Boom, Batman. You're at it again. This podcast, of course, is brought to you by America Joy Print Shop, official sponsor of the Four-Eyed Radio Network. Business cards, flyers, posters, banners, cut vinyl, car wraps, and more. Please visit americajoy.com for more information, and just tell them that the Fern sent you. We also have support from Raven Designs, illustration and design that fit your personality. For samples and inquiries, visit ravencruise.com. And as always, we have support for Critical Care Comics. You can visit them by going to criticalcarecomics.org. They donate to children's hospitals and also do cosplay in support of children's health. So
I am going to go to Raven's Designs and make her make me a brand new bat logo. Why would you make a logo when your other one was destroyed by Commissioner Gordon?
Holy Toledo's Batman. Sounds like you need a graphic designer.
I like Tostitos potato chips. They're delicious. Oh.
What a beautiful singing voice.
Yeah, what a beautiful singing voice.
That was my favorite
You
part.
be quiet, Bane.
So, of course, we got quite a bit of shout-outs. We'll start there. In case you guys don't realize that we're doing a lot of Batman stuff, because we're going to do a whole episode dedicated to the Batman saga.
The Dark Knight. We don't even know. We might even split this up into 2 episodes.
We might have to.
We came up with ideas that we might be starting doing other.
Actually, credit where credit's due. We kind of a format, I guess, for the blogcast where we're trying to do like specific, like topics we want to talk about or so specific issues or things we're reading. But Steve came up with a brilliant idea of like every so often we'll pick a character and just do a whole like couple podcasts just about them, because there's so much content with a lot of these characters and how we got into it, why we got into them, what makes them unique, and talk about the history and talk about like everything relating to film, products, toys, like everything. So Stevie was the one who came up with it. So.
Yeah, and then I also talked about us even doing maybe our own DVD commentaries where we'll go ahead and watch the movie on our own, so then we'll watch it together and record the podcast. We'll have you guys sync up with us, so if you want to listen to it. If we have any fun facts, or we decide to goof around with it, or just be like, this was a really horrible adaptation.
Because let's face it, Steve and I, we ended up watching the animated version of Doctor Strange, and it was horrible. Oh, it was good. I'd say it was okay.
I mean,
but
it's pretty good.
It made it so much better when Steve was doing voices to it, especially with the old guy and everything.
I found Netflix. Before you get into the shout-outs, a big shout-out I forgot to mention on Arcade Bros. I found out who it was because their podcast actually followed me today.
What?
There's a podcast called Pod Crash with Chris Gore. Now, if that name does not sound familiar, he's actually a guy who used to be on Attack of the Show back when it was on G4, and that was actually a video game kind of.
That's right. I remember Chris Gore. Yeah.
Not only did Chris Gore follow all of us, basically all of our podcasts on the network, he also followed me. I don't know if he followed anybody else, but then when I followed him back today, his podcast followed me today. So I want to give him a shout out because that's actually kind of a big bump. So guy. I'll just have to say we are coming for you, Chris Hardwick.
Holy Toledo's Chris Hardwick. Watch out, zombies.
We'll have him on and we'll do the Talking Dead bat.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just do Talking Dead, even though we're talking about other stuff.
Like, I thought there was going to be zombies.
I think you guys invited me on the show to talk about other things. Yeah, so how was Loveline?
Yeah.
Didn't do so good, did it? I wasn't on that show.
No, he was singled out. He was
yeah,
on,
we'll just
totally.
We'll talk about every.
So I was at Show Blind Date.
Yeah, exactly. Like all these shows that he wasn't even a part of.
What are you talking about?
According to
I
Wikipedia,
loved you on Family Feud.
God, you were so great.
You were so good. So everybody says.
Weren't you the guy who spun the wheel?
Yeah. No, damn it. But we'll go ahead with our shout-outs.
We got quite a bit, yeah. So we have, these are all people who we've had, like, again, friends and family that have followed us, as well as people that we might have missed, just because there's been so many. We have Carlisle Rice. Christopher Robert Murray. And, of course, these are Facebook friends follow, so...
I'm just going to keep repeating.
That's fine. Possible. Movie Critic. Cy Young. Derek Barras. Christy Russell.
Christina Russell.
Stephen Andrews. Angel Dean Stidham.
I am not pronouncing that name.
That name sounds too much.
I believe she goes by Angel Denise Stidham, but I could be wrong. Why would you make a long name if I wasn't going to say it?
Why would you shoot a man only to spell his name Stidham? Ashley Wong. Mark Norman.
I wonder what would break first.
Your Ashley or your Wong? Mark Norman. We got the famous Tavis Maiden. Mavis. That's how famous it is. We just changed your name. Yeah, you have to go by Mavis. All the world is going to know you as Mavis.
I apologize, Tavis. I screwed that up.
You were so excited to see his name that
I was
you
like,
just...
oh my God, someone's following me.
Jim Miller. Nancy Lewis Garrigus. I want to say.
Sounds like what's that? What was that Japanese monster? Oh, the Pokemon. Gyarados.
Gyarados. Yeah, there you go. Nancy Louise Gyarados.
We're just wasting an hour on this before we actually get. People are like,
get
to the
Batman. James Laird, who was a secret Batman villain in 1970. No, not.
Was it?
Now, Eric Berry. Kevin Elliott.
You know what? He should change his name to Eric Berry. Eric Berry Crunch.
Crunchberry Crunch. Eric.
Kevin Elliott.
We have Cathal De Joseph. We have Quinn Tigerfang Lacey.
That's not your real name.
No. We also have Christopher Smith.
That's not a name either.
Cyrus Aurelia. We also have Dustin Scarupa or Scustin.
Actually, Syria and Dustin have both been on Arcade Bros.
Super nerdy best friends.
No, I will not climb your building again.
But it's on the Fern building.
Riddle me this. No. Go ahead. Sorry.
You riddle me.
We have Stephen Maston. We have James Goodman. And to be fair, his brother is James Badman.
Oh, that's true. His evil twin. We also have Joanne Smith Mooney. We have no idea who that is. We also have Aaron Mooney. We have no idea who she is. And then Aaron Gallo.
Get back to your Star Trek.
And then, of course, tweets. We have at 13 Coins Comics. We have at Super Beefo. We have at Steve P37.
That's me.
At Gray List Station.
That's me too.
We have at Paul Chelsea 81.
That's not me.
And then at Tom_Twits.
That's actually my superhero name.
And then we also had a follow and a favorite by the comic list on this week because we posted about them.
Awesome.
If you want, we could start about what we are reading until we get into our character of the spotlight this week, which of course is the Batman or Bruce Wayne, whichever one you prefer.
Actually, I want to go with.
You want to just do that and skip these for next time?
No, I was going to say I was going to start with the best Robin ever, Todd.
Oh yeah, Todd Bacon.
Yeah, who knows?
What was his name?
It was Todd. Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson wasn't in.
Tim
Drake. Then it was Todd Stevenson.
Todd who got killed by the Joker and became Red Hood. That's all. I don't think anyone cares.
And I was funny because I was just looking at because I was looking for there was a comic. My very first Batman comic featured a character, which I didn't remember who he was. And when I was looking up I was trying to look for the comic cover, like every Todd just kept coming up, and I was like, oh yeah, Todd, like who's in?
What was the thing? Actually, they just posted. So, if you're not familiar with the DC universe, a thing Warner Brothers has been doing, and they've been doing it really well, is they've been taking graphic novels and making it an adaptation into the animated movies and just releasing those on the Blu-ray, DVD, and downloadable and stuff like that. So the last one they did was the Flashpoint Paradox,
Yes.
which was a really good one. We'll probably do a commentary on that. I don't know when, but the next one has just been released. They released the trailer. And it's called Son of Batman.
Ooh.
And it's basically going to be the story between Batman and his son Damian. Whatever.
Jason Todd.
Todd.
Well, because the reason I was looking up is because like the comic I remember first getting when we were young, we used to go to the Safeway or whatever and just get it for like 25 cents.
Okay, before we get into it, however, anybody out there, please let us know if you ever remember picking up your comics actually from a grocery store.
Yeah, like going to just wherever.
That
was
crazy.
Because I remember, they used to just be on record. I remember they then started getting like Spawns and things.
Yeah, they started doing that, and then it wasn't until I don't know when it was, but then they decided just to be like, you have to pick these up at a comic book store.
Like I guess either it wasn't lucrative enough, or they were just getting stolen too much, so they decided to and then it was like, where's an atomic? Like, where's a comic book store?
Yeah, we didn't know where comic
book store. And then eventually we found out because the Valley Luna that was down there by Ray, the Atomic Comics used to be there. Like that's where it first was, and that was the first comic.
There was actually a comic book shop over by in Ahwatukee. It was over by the Circle K area, like where the Goodwill is and stuff like that. There used to be one there before they actually built it up. Yeah,
I didn't even know that, and we lived right there. But it was cool because the comic I was looking for, and I can't find it. I'll have to literally go home and dig it out. Was the cover was just showing a guy who had blonde hair, and he's holding up the Batman cowl, and it was all about how like he infiltrated like the Batcave and like he had this whole thing. So when I was looking up, like they said that Jason Todd had blonde hair in certain comics like back in the day, so it might have been like a story arc with him. And I just never realized it because literally it was a comic I just picked up because I saw this cool guy holding up the Batman mask. I'm like, oh, who's this?
Well, that's what really sold you on the comics. They would always have a really cool kind of cover. You're like, whoa, why is Batman blonde?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, why is Batman blonde now? Was he in disguise or something? But no, I was like, I guess it's a whole storyline with him, like where he comes back, and then I guess in that version, was something with Superboy Prime did something causing like Jason Todd to wake up out of his coffin.
Okay.
He kind of was in a hospital for a while, and then he got recognized by people in a gang, and they knew Talia al Ghul. Mm-hmm. So she ended up realizing that he wasn't all there, so she then lowered him into the pit, but her father was in the pit too. And that's how they like combined like almost their personalities. So that's why he had this very vengeful like thing for Batman and stuff, and then only recently has he become kind of more.
That was actually a very good. That was another adaptation that it said Under the Red Hood, and I forget who was playing Batman in that, but the guy who played Nightwing was Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, and then that was the one with the Red Hood story, Under the Red Hood.
Yeah, that was actually animated. The one where it was John DiMaggio, the guy who does Batman, who does Bender and Jake the Dog and stuff like that. This was the first time that
they did somebody
somebody different than
and his Joker
Mark
was
Hamill.
good.
And his Joker was really good. I really liked his Joker
because it had a more of a classier, like it was more.
Yeah.
It was more psychotic than it was more like hilarious.
Like hilarious,
but he did have some moments though. Like I like that part where like he said something, like this guy's nothing but a psychopathic man, and he's still running the streets, and he's like, oh, you do care about me.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, you do talk about me. Like it was just like. That was pretty good. But yeah, I liked his portrayal of that. But of course, like that's why I think it's funny is like anytime somebody else does the Joker, people feel a little bit like boo secretly because it's like always go to Mark Hamill. But I was very impressed with what they did with like the Batman Origins Joker.
Batman Origins.
That was the game.
Oh, where
his
they
Joker
had...
and it was those whole new two guys, and they
did,
I think
they did a phenomenal job. They actually
did
a really good job with that Joker, and I just like how everything was with that. It was also really cool because they also did, I forget who also, the guy who played Ben in Lost.
Yeah.
He was the evil guy who's also on Person of Interest. He actually voiced the Joker in The Dark Knight Returns.
That's right.
The Blu-ray that came out. And he did a good job with that too.
Because his was more just
he was just like, oh, and then it wasn't until Batman came back. I love how that ended because he's all like, Batman's back. And he finally smiles. Like he was just like,
he was just
kind of like there, like just.
Yeah, because he was like in the Arkham. He was just kind of like
in Arkham and stuff like that. It's a really well done. These are like I definitely say instead of watch these animated movies, which are really phenomenal and awesome stuff like that, but I say definitely pick up the books because they are phenomenal.
Because I think it translates very well because then you get to see them like in motion. Like you read the books and you kind of can piece it where it was like not just the green. you had like the yellow, you had the red, you had the blue. Like, they were kind of like going Power Rangers on us, where like now like the different OAs, the different rays of like fear and things. And then it was cool the way they did it in the book, because death, or the Blackest Nights as they're called, there's a big prophecy, and it's like a tale, I guess, from the old days of I guess the Green Lantern mythos. There's a thing called the Blackest Night. It's like about like the end of the world and where the darkness would come back into the world. And what I liked is in that saga, the deaths see what's going on in each character. Like you see like Superman and like Superboy, and you can see like at one moment it's like you can see like the color hope, you can see the color fear.
Because one of the flashes becomes like a blue Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Like that.
And then what was cool and then what was really neat about it is like there's a part where then Superman goes nuts and like uses his heat vision, and then all like his colors are just rage. Like it just shows rage, and you see like him like cutting off zombie heads and stuff. And that's basically what it was. Like as far as I understood it, Marvel came out with the Marvel Zombies, and then DC was kind of pushing the Green Lantern Corp thing, and it was cool. This was like around the time when Batman died. Like this is where he'd went back in
when
time,
they supposedly thought that
he was
Batman died. That's actually a really good read too.
It was great because then like Tim Drake picks up the or Dick Grayson picks up the mantle of Batman.
Yes.
And then Damian picks up the mantle of Robin.
Yes.
I think Red Hood was, I think at the time, the British version, the Red Eagle or the Red Hawk or whatever.
Then there was Red Robin. That's actually Tim Drake.
Yeah, so he was in it as well. Tim Drake was in it older. And it was really cool because then they were like, there was something where the police station was being under attack, and like Barbara and Jim were like using shotguns to fight off these like zombies. And then they both had to go there, and they had to use. They decided like it was great because Damien was like talking about like, oh, I could use this firearm and this repel, and they're like, no guns, and they're like, what kind of upbringing did you have? And just kind of looked at them like, because I guess in his storyline he was raised by Talia and all of them,
that's
so
right,
he had more of a mercenary upbringing. So then they end up like using flamethrowers. So it's just wicked to see like all of them like using flamethrowers and stuff, trying to fight like zombie versions of superheroes. And it was cool because then they brought back like, that's what's so great about it, is they brought back all these characters they killed off. I guess in the comic saga they killed off the Puppet Master. Okay. So then it was like him, and then he ended up having a ring, and he spawned like Scarface as a puppet, as a thing. They had the Graysons who died. They brought them back to add like a psychological.
Yeah, because wasn't like the leader of the Black Lantern Corps, wasn't it Solomon Grundy?
Yeah. Like at first he was Solomon Grundy took over. There was like a head guy, like he was like one of the OAs that left and like died or perished or something. There was a big conflict. I think it was the guy who was in the movie that they did with Ryan Reynolds. It was that guy becomes like the death of, and he's like literally he is death, like he's a skeleton and he has the thing, and it's really neat. But the way they ended it was very much like where they were getting into like the whole light aspect. And I don't know if you've read it all yet, but I guess like in the, later on, what's his name, Mephisto, his nemesis.
Oh, Sinestro.
Sinestro, yes. Sinestro actually becomes like the light. Like he becomes like the white lantern.
Oh,
because
really?
He was always like supposed to be like the most powerful lantern or whatever. So he gives up the mantle of fear, which is what he was running. He was running the Fear Corps, and they actually all combine their powers, and then he becomes like a light like version. Like there was dark, and then like a white version. And so
that was actually
that.
real. I should let you borrow that, the Green Lantern New 52 reboot, because when it starts out, you just see Sinestro, and he gets his green ring back.
Yeah, and you're kind of like,
and you're like, okay, and then he becomes it. But you see how Jordan was banned from the Lantern Corps and everything that. But then Sinestro finds out that like his home planet is actually overrun by the old Yellow Lantern Corps, so he goes back to Earth, gets how Jordan gives him a ring,
saying like,
but the only thing, like he goes to use it on him, he goes, that's the only problem with the ring. He's like, you can keep this ring, you can do whatever you want with this, but the ring will never be able to hurt me.
Oh,
so it was kind of like that kind of thing. So it was kind of a cool twist.
So then it made like a cool alternative where like,
because it's like now you're kind of forced to help me, and you can't really do anything because he could shut it off anytime.
Yeah, exactly. Like now you're kind of working for the guy.
So it was pretty interesting to see that. And it was kind of cool because it showed it again, like with these new 52s. It's like I've never gotten.
It's like they're rebooting it, but they're still holding homage to like what they did already.
What they
did already. Want to like ruin any of that like backstory.
No, definitely. But the cool part is it's like you don't want to like it's it's some of these characters that I never got a chance to get into, such as what I was just telling you before, which I'll talk about what I read finally this week. But it's like the Green Lantern. It's like, again, I never really knew too much about Hal Jordan. I knew a little bit about him, but it's kind of cool to see him like he's back, and then he sees like a guy like beating a woman, and he literally jumps from a building and crashes in that building and then starts beating up the guy. Has no powers anymore, has no ring, but because he was in that lifestyle for so many years, he just has an instinct, and then it stops and he turns over, and it turns out they were just filming a movie. But his instinct still. But then people are like, you jump through one building to another building, and it's like you're not. And then even like I think
you had no fear of it.
And even the girl that was, she's like, you're no longer the Green Lantern. You can't keep doing this kind of stuff. So it was kind of a cool twist.
Yeah, because then he realized like how.
But then it also kind of shows him. But then it shows him like he's walking through, like he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have anything. He's like he has no purpose right now, and he feels like kind of like okay,
what am I
here for? So it was kind of a cool twist. I'd like to see what the next one is up. I got to pick up the second one to that one, but that one's really cool. But
you were reading one. You said we were talking about a little bit about the Flash Volume 1.
Yeah. So we're again, I'm started picking up a lot of characters. Like I told you, it's like Superman. I gave another shot because I really didn't know too much
and
about
especially
Superman,
that book was
really cool. Of course, Batman is always going to be my go-to guy, but I really actually got into the Flash because I've been trying to find the Green Arrow book. They didn't have one, and all this other. These are just other ones that I'm like, these are characters that are interesting, especially watching like Young Justice and stuff. I'm like, these are characters that I want to know more and a little bit more about their backstory and learn some more about them. So it's like the Flash. I want to find out. So the Flash in the Justice League cartoon show, they made him very witty, very quick wit, but he wasn't really the smartest one in the world, and but he had like that charm to him, I guess. But if you read the comics, Barry Allen was a scientist.
Yeah.
And you find out that the cause of his powers was the accident, but it's really cool because I didn't really know too much about his powers. Like when you're reading the book, he's like, I've been doing this for 5 years. I'm still going to make mistakes. The only way I'm going to fix these mistakes is
by learn
by my errors. But it's like you find out stuff like he's talking about like he's like, yeah, I know how to run. I can run faster than the speed of light. I can I can make these vortex and stuff like that, like spin my arms really fast and make little tornadoes and put out fires. He's talking about how he can like make his molecules like vibrate so much and actually pass through solid materials. So you're hearing all this stuff. But then there was a part where this doctor's talking to him and feel like you need to be faster. And Flash is like, what are you talking about? He's like, you need to tap into your brain speed. He's like, so he does it, and he finds out that he can actually tap in and actually see things before they happen. So he almost gets kind of a glimpse into the future.
Oh, wow.
So you see like all this stuff like come out like this, and he runs really quick, takes care of everything that he needs to take care of, and then all this stuff just happens. Like he stops like these robbers and a kid getting hit from a car and all this kind of stuff, just like all simultaneously.
Because he was able to see it all.
And he comes back, but then what's really cool because then he's like, oh, he can plot out everything. But he gets to this part where these guns are all on him, and he's all like, you guys better, give up. It's going to be, he's always thinking, okay, I'm going to get my ring going. I'm going to be able to take all these guys out. But not only was his brain too fast for him, but his instincts were no longer as fast as he used to be with his instincts. So literally, like, he gets shot, like, right in the head, but he was able to do the vibrating
and
thing
make sure it
just kind of passed through and almost nicked him, but he was out for a bit. But it was kind of cool where he was just kind of like, okay, I need to master some of this stuff. So it was really kind of cool just
how he's always learning
how to see all this kind of stuff. And then you find out like he's able to do these things where he's running around something really fast, either slow it down, speed it up, or kind of teleport it almost. But he doesn't realize that he starts teleporting things through kind of time and space.
Oh,
so they either get trapped in this weird vortex thing that shows up later on in the comic where you find out, or like he found out like he took this thing that was going to be a bomb pretty much and he transported it, but then he thought, oh, I got rid of it, it's done, but then turns out it like ends up on another side of the world, and then like he exploded,
and of course it
takes out like stuff, and it's like, oh my god. So it's kind of cool to see him like how smart he is and stuff like that,
and how he's learning
his powers and stuff. But it's actually a really fun read. The artwork was really well done. I liked a lot of the title pages for the comic because it literally shows him running, and then it would have like something like he's running on water, and then you see like the Flash in the water, and it's like, so it was kind of it's very, very cool and just very different though from reading like a Batman book and everything, because the Batman, and what I like about it too is like you can really see difference in artists and color panels and stuff like that, because like the Flash is very bright, very colorful, and stuff like that. Like it's even though it's night shots and stuff like that, you can still see like it's not as a darker shade than it would be like this is Gotham. So I did like that. I highly recommend it. He's a fun character. It's really kind of cool to see like how he interacts and stuff like that. But I love the whole just things with the time traveling and stuff like that. So how it ends is really good. Like you see him fall and crash, and then and then it's part of the they're in this they're in this world with all gorillas, so it's Grog.
Oh, nice. So they're bringing Grog because
So
that was one of his.
That was one of his
villains.
villains.
Yeah,
like the only one like he really runs into is Captain Cold.
Yeah, Captain Cold was his other one.
Is one of his villains, but it's all these different.
He had a lot of them. He had like the Trickster.
Yeah, he had the Trickster.
That was the one big one, and then even Mark Hamill played that guy.
Yeah, he played him in the actual TV
show,
series.
yeah.
So that was what I read this week. So if you haven't checked out The Flash, I would definitely check it out. It's a really good reboot with the New 52. I am going to go back and pick up actually old issues because I still want to read the Flashpoint Paradox compared to how it was in the DVD and stuff, but it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I guess without further ado, we'll jump into the main course event.
Time to get ourselves some rattle the cages, rattle the cages. We're gonna rattle the cages. Or did you have a song for it?
Batman, quickly, old chum, we must go down to the Batcave.
Oh, there we're calling it down.
You better not grease up my bat pole.
With your childlike thighs. Golly gee willikers, Batman. If you guys haven't checked it out, there's a YouTube clip about the Holy Everything from the cartoon show.
Oh, yeah.
Where Robin's like, holy, fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. It's like he just comes up with all these ones. That's really good. You should check it out. It's fun stuff.
Quickly, old chum, we were just released on Blu-ray and DVD sometime this year.
That's true. They just came out on a complete saga.
Well, I don't know if it's come out yet, but I know it's going to be coming out in 2014 finally. So, Kyle, what was? We'll start with this. Before we get into the whole backstory of Batman, where he was created. What was your first introduction to Batman, basically?
I think, again, like comic book wise, my first introduction was definitely that book that I picked up at like a Safeway for a couple cents. Like that was my first. I still have that as my very first Batman comic. I think my first experience was actually seeing the movie because our father was a huge Batman nut. He ended up getting that big old like book with all these like Batman stories in it.
Yeah,
that
I think it's like the Batman like encyclopedia, but this was like from whenever it debuted to like I think 1991. Like it wasn't like so anything current. It's probably been updated now, but
yeah, and it was just neat because I remember like it was a fond memory because it reminded me that my father is also kind of a nerd. Like he also likes Star Wars and things like that. So it was kind of refreshing to see that not only was our father figure like somebody who worked and did things also, but he also still had passions for things as well. Like and like that attributed to us because then we were even more excited when we're like, oh, Spider-Man. And I remember that Christmas too because it was very like it was joyous to see him get something that was kind of like nerdy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's into superheroes too. Like, all right, like we had like that connection where we all liked all kinds of heroes. We had Spider-Man, we had Superman, we had Batman.
Well, our palette was a lot more broad, like our palette became huge because for some strange reason superheroes were big when they first debuted. Like a lot of things were like, okay, let's try to figure this out, and then it kind of had a falling off. I don't know what time of the year it was, but literally 1990 or the 90s I should say is when Marvel had a huge boom because I know that's when we all kind of got hooked. We started getting the trading cards.
Yeah, that was
all the action figures.
We
started getting the comic books, the video games, like all this kind of stuff. But again, we wouldn't see a Marvel movie. I mean, technically there were Marvel movies that came out but didn't do too well. I mean, there was a Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. There was the Captain America movie. There was the failed Fantastic Four movie that you could only get like a bootleg copy or find it online and watch it, which is just terrible. But there wasn't like any like the big movie that finally came out that kind of pushed the superhero movies was the 1989 Batman. That came out by Tim Burton. But like we said, we had a huge palette. I mean, we had Spider-Man, we had, X-Men, we had all these different superheroes, and it wasn't until the 90s, I think, where superheroes really became big with us.
Big time, yeah. Like, it started really building. Like, I mean, like, Marvel had already had comic characters for a while. And, like, they've been doing well. Like, they actually did very well during, like, that whole 60s, 70s, 80s, because it was all about, like, the hippie movement and this and that. Like, so they did very well because it was you would think too, like in a time when like the world was really changing and civil rights and all these other things were playing, like who would read comics? But still, like there was a generation of children that were born in that era, the baby boomers, like our parents and stuff, that really got into that kind of stuff because it was cool. It was kind of that pop culture, things knew it, and it was actually pretty interesting because it was right around that time that also like some characters like Captain America and Superman started to die down because they weren't as popular. Like in a world where we had nuclear power, are these characters really relevant? And of course, like after World War II, how relevant is a guy who's punching Hitler? Like it's
well,
hard
yeah,
to,
that was the thing with Captain America, and then when they finally made the Avengers, and they came up with that whole backstory of him being frozen in time and all this kind of stuff.
And it's such a great story because he's such a good character, and it's such a pointed moment.
So they brought him back, but yeah, so basically your first introduction to a Batman was pretty much through the comic books.
Yeah, for the most part, like my introduction was definitely through our father, the comics. Around that time is like 1989. That's when, like, growing up, we had friends who, I forget what it was. Like I think it had came and went in the theaters. I don't think we ever went to see it in the theaters.
We didn't go see it, but I remember Mom and Dad went to see it.
They saw it, and then I remember, obviously, yeah, because he was a fan of stuff. But I remember it was the VHS. And I remember I was at somebody's sleepover and they had it. I remember watching part of it, and then of course we fell asleep during it. But then I remember we got it like as a gift, like someone got it for either.
Yeah, it was like Christmas. Like we'd always get like a one. That's so weird to say. Here's your one VHS that you share between all of you.
And we were all like, yeah,
we were all excited. And then
VHS.
But I will have to say, but yeah, I think my first introduction to Batman, because I wasn't really I like comic books, but I wasn't really into the reading of them yet. I kind of just liked the pictures. I wasn't that old yet to actually kind of understand most of the comprehension of some of that stuff. So my big introduction actually to Batman was when they started playing the repeats of the old 1966 show on, I think it was either like CBS or UPN, like early in the morning. It was during like the summer, and they'd always do like an hour block of Batman, so you'd always get like two things. So I remember watching that, and then it wasn't until like I think the movie came out, and then you were like, this isn't like the Batman we saw, like that I was used to seeing. And then it wasn't until I think what was it? It was probably when Batman Returns came out that really like kind of piqued your interest. But then again, we were little. But then again, now looking back at the Batman Return movie and how not only how violent it was, and also like the Penguin, I'm gonna kill all the babies in Gotham. It's like there was a Happy Meal attached to this.
Yeah,
and I remember those toys
exactly.
too.
Like what? There's a what with who did what?
There were so many weird things.
Well, then on my favorite too was just like the Batman never hurt anyone, and then he goes into what was it, the Acme?
It was like the chemical plants.
Yeah, blows it up.
Blows it up.
There's people working late. There's some janitors like hate the night shift. They're like, what?
Or him. He was like, this is my last day.
Yeah, I'm out early retirement.
What is this?
Whoa, look a car.
Like that was like
that's a slick looking.
It was so weird to see that, and it like thinking about it, like growing up, didn't even occur to us, going like, oh yeah, and then you find out like when you start reading comic books and everything, you're like, Batman never. I mean, technically, Batman did use a gun.
Yeah.
In the early days.
In
the early days of his career, but then it was like, why use a
weapon? Then it's cool because then that turned into his grappling.
Yes.
Like that was the whole point. It turned into his grappling thing.
So if you want to lay
if
you want to lay some comic book knowledge on everybody, Kyle, unless you're still looking for information on the Batman. When did oh no, I don't have any. I thought you were looking for it.
Like when did it all begin? Like when did the
Wikipedia or something.
When did Batman all get going?
Yeah.
Well, I know, like I watched. There's a documentary you can watch. It's on. I believe it was on. What was it? I want to say there a lot of the digital movies you could watch, like with the Batman. Like they had that whole like Dark Knight. Like it was between like the Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
They had like that movie. I think it was between Batman Begins and the Dark Knight.
Yes, it was Gotham Knights.
And they had like a whole documentary. Like what was cool about that is like it was all these other famous animators and studios like from Japanime and all that stuff doing their versions of Batman, taking a story and retelling it and doing it in a very great art style. It talked about all these things that like it were really interesting. It was voiced by the original voice of Batman. And then what was cool is I believe on that also had like 3 or 4 episodes of the old classic animated Batman.
Yes.
And they were all my favorite ones. Like it was the one when like Jim Gordon discovers he's Batman.
Oh, that one was good. I forget what it was. I think that one was called Over the Edge.
Over the Edge,
and
yeah.
That one was written by Paul Dini. And it was basically they were going after the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
And you find out like all of a sudden you just see Scarecrow push Barbara Gordon,
aka
hits
that
Batgirl,
car,
and she
like
hits
the cop car.
And like for a kid, this is the cool part about that show. For a child's animated show, the Batman the Animated Series, which literally I could do an entire month on. For a show that was like that, but when the show first premiered, the Batman show, it was at night.
Yeah, it was at night.
It was on prime time.
And I mean, it wasn't really like blood and guts or nothing, but
it did have
punching.
It did have a very good. It did have
shooting guns.
It had an adult overtone to it.
Yeah, it had quite a bit. And I remember because we used to watch it. Like we used to stay up until like 7 or 8 and watch it with our folks, and then they started recording it for us every once in a while. And then of course, like it was always on. Like every time you turn it on, it was sort of like a once a day, like once a week show. I remember that much. Like it was like once every like Thursday. It was like, oh, Batman the animated series is on, and then it turned into like almost like every
day of the week,
which was great because then it was like,
are you having troubles with Wikipedia?
No. I'm pulling stuff up right now. Like what I'm doing is I'm pulling up about the creator.
I keep clicking on Wikipedia for the Batman thing, and it just doesn't. It just keeps stalling out on me.
It could be them too. I mean, either one we're talking about, and people are going nuts about Bob Kane.
Even though we're not live.
No.
Live, but
yeah, I have no idea something's going on, but I know like one thing that was cool is like in one of those animated movies you can find a whole documentary about Bob Kane.
Yes,
it talks about Stan Lee and his relationship. It talks about him growing up. There's a rumor that he had a relationship with Marilyn Monroe. Like there's all these things that came out because he was a very like punctual guy. Like Stan Lee would say they'd be at a dinner and a guy might recognize Stan Lee and he'd be like, "Oh, hi, nice to see you." But then Bob Kane would be like, "Hey, do you know who I am? I'm the creator of Batman." And he'd like on a contact napkin like draw the face, like draw Batman and be like, "Hey, buddy, like thanks for stopping by." Like and he'd do it all. Like he was not shy at all. Like he loved the idea. And they said it was funny because a lot of people like looked at him and they said, if you looked at Bob Kane, he looked like the Penguin. The way he would dress and stuff, it was always funny about that. And then what's really cool is if you look at their influences, I think it's just something up with Wikipedia today.
Okay.
There's a couple I'm getting like an error. I just got an XML error from them. So who knows? Maybe they're updating or maybe they got shut down due to privacy over the web. Ooh. You know how like that whole thing's going down about the stupid privacy on your websites now.
Oh.
Let's pull it up like this, though. But yeah, so Bob Kane is the original inventor. I guess he had done cartooning for a while, did it for a lot of newspapers, and he actually was doing stuff like Sherlock Holmes. He actually did one for a Three Musketeer comic. And then, of course, around the time, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who invented Superman, came out with Superman, did so well. Like, it blew up like crazy. Like, people were just so enthralled with it and liking the whole idea. And it was actually really interesting because Jerry Shuster and Joe Siegel had a very traumatic thing happen where one of their fathers actually was killed by a robbery.
Oh, really?
Some guy robbed him and killed him, and so he grew up without a father. And in turn, they invented kind of like this Superman character, as like the father of everybody. Like, oh, he's powerful, he's strong, he's invincible. Bullets bounce off him. Like it's like this childhood dream that they built this character. And then ironically, Bob Kane comes into the picture, and he's building a character, and he's born in tragedy. Like it's kind of like it's interesting.
Yeah.
You think like Bob Kane. Bob Kane's parents were fine. Like he grew up fine. He grew up in New Jersey. Like nothing big deal. Like so, it's interesting how cool like that connection of those two creators, and it's not like they did very well. Like they were both very collaborative, very fun. Like that's why they love the idea of like putting those major characters together. Like when Batman started out selling Superman, it was about a way of connecting them back together by having the connection. And I think that's what it was. Is Superman is fun, and a lot of the older writers talked about it, where it's hard to write for a guy who could blow out a star.
Yeah,
like a star. Oh, it's coming to Earth, and he just like blows it out like a birthday candle. And when you have a guy like that, it's hard to relate to him. It's also hard to like really be like, oh, well, thanks, Superman. Like you're always doing this. Whereas like Batman, because he had no powers and he was just very well trained. He like grew up his whole life. I mean, like literally as a child, he made his sole purpose to be the best at whatever he was going to do, like crime fighting. So he like trained. Like I mean, when you really think about it, as a child, like you're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to whatever. Like you don't care. I want to be an astronaut. It's like you live underwater. That's not going to happen, Aquaman. But he's like, I want to be an astronaut. Like you, at least with Batman's character, like he knew from like the very moment that happened that was it. Like it was time for him to realize like what he was going to become.
Yeah, because like the first Batman comic was called Detective Comics, and it came out in 1939.
And didn't that have like the Asian looking guy on the cover?
Yeah, it had the Asian. Like it had the two gangsters on the roof, and then it had Batman. But the funny part is you could kind of see the evolution of Batman, like he like for this kind of thing. And,
yeah, because at first it was like almost like a Da Vinci kind of style of like the flying contraption looking, that's what he used to jump off of buildings.
But the funny part is by the early, so literally Batman was out for pretty much a year, and then by the early 1940s, DC wanted to kiddy up the book, featuring the Batman with Superman, because they thought Batman was, ultimately too dark and depressing in the long run. So once again, they went to Kane, and this time he asked him to come up with like an antidote or to
something to kind of soften it up. Yeah,
a dangerous character that ironically that had previous asked him to create. Kane thought about it and recalled that it was this era he had enjoyed the a brash character Junior who appeared in the Dick Tracy newspaper comic strip. So then, of course, Robin was born.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting just think like, which is kind of funny because if you think about it, it's like they were gearing comic books towards kids,
Right.
so they had to do that. But now if you look at Batman, like Batman's even like is a lot darker than ever now. I mean, you have people dying all of a sudden. You have all these kind of
I mean, yeah, they really kept him in like a pit of like the downward spiral. Like they never really like gave him the softy like, yeah, everything's great, your life's wonderful. I think one of my favorite books to read is Public Enemies with Superman and Batman, because it's great because it opens up with like literally it's like panel and it's like, I came to this earth, and it shows like literally from a baby's perspective of him like crashing through like wheat fields. And you see like all the weed, and he's like talking about like, oh, I came to this world and I had no idea what it was. And then it shows like Bruce's hands with his parents, and he's like, oh, I remember the alley being very cold that night. And it goes back and forth, and it shows how like Batman like or Superman, when he like finally the thing opens and he sees Martha and John Kent, like it's like, oh, and this is my life.
Yeah, everything's embracing.
And then it shows Batman, and it's like him kneeling, and you see his parents dead in front of him, and he goes, and that's when my childhood ended. And it's like, they keep bringing that, and but it's true though, like and then what I really liked about that whole saga was like they were jumping through time and stuff trying to get back, and like they're doing things. I know there was a point where they're sitting there, and like Batman or Superman sees his parents for the last time, and he sees that the Rock is coming, and he's like he's almost like, oh, I could take them with me, I could save my parents, I could do this, and then he realizes like, no, they're meant to die. It's like, it's meant to happen because I can't change it. And then what's cool is then Batman sees his parents like there, and he knows what's about to happen. He goes, Bruce, you know what you have to do? And he's like, you're right. And he like shoves Superman, and he jumps on the guy.
Oh yeah.
And with that, like the time gets all distorted and changes. And then what's cool is so Superman finally like finds him again, and it's like almost like they've made it a commercial thing where like the Batman, oh, remember that guy dressed as a bat who like stopped that guy that night. And so like then it shows like how Bruce has grown up, very privileged. They're almost having like a Batman party because it was like kind of
it shows how different his life was.
How different his life would have been. So then what was cool is like then like they go back to that point, and Batman allows it to happen, but like it rejuvenated his resolve. Like it gave him even more like now he had all these memories of like what his life could have been with his parents, and because now that was gone, that he was like, okay, now I'm gonna fight even harder.
Like I don't know if Marvel's ever done anything like that with their universe, but that was the biggest thing I really liked about the DC universe is every single character, either something happened to them, tragedy wise and something like that. But
it was either like they were born in tragedy with like the Flash, like an accident.
Well,
like,
it wasn't even that. Like the Flash, his backstory, I don't know if you know, is like he was a normal kid and everything like that. He comes home on his birthday, and there was a break-in into his house, single mother, and she gets murdered. And then that was the whole thing with like Professor, Professor Flashpoint with Professor Zoom going like, oh, you can't save everybody, and he like kind of jabs at him going like, you can't even save your mother. But then it's like, no, I can go back, and then sure enough, as he goes back, change the entire timeline, never becomes the Flash. Bruce is the one that ends up dying. Superman doesn't fall into Kansas, he falls or Smallville, he falls into like military area. So it's like all these different, and then it's like, what was it, Wonder Woman and Aquaman are at war.
Yeah, it was like the Atlanteans and the Amazonians were at war.
So I think I kind of like that because it's like you kind of see it's like
sometimes it's meant to be.
Everything has to happen for a reason. You can't change it. But my favorite part is just how you see Bruce's dad going like, if there's a chance that there's a different world out there where my son lives, and he knows like, you go back and fix everything. I'm gone. Yeah, but he's like, but if there's a chance that my son lives,
like,
do
that's
it.
What it was.
And it was just all like, oh, so as much as it's like,
and that's why I think what's funny is like you forget, like you would think like people make fun of it all the time, like, oh, your parents are dead, haha, like that's it seems like trivial that your parents died when you were a child, that you would like hold this like rage in you for your entire life. Like eventually some point you would have to deal and move on and mourn and things like that. And then like when they did that aspect where like Bruce was the one to die, like you could see like how much like it wasn't even so much of like mourning, it was just like they had such a close bond as a family. And that's what people forget. Like their family was,
well, that's
like,
the thing,
like,
and
perfect.
everyone kind of forgets Batman. They think, oh, he's just doing it to, he wants revenge. Yeah. But really, his whole thing behind it, he's like, I never want any child to have to go through this ever again.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's basically his motto. And then the sad part is, tragedy happens to Dick Grayson.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Like
that's
Robin,
the whole point.
Just like, but things. Then that was the cool part with Robin is he was able to get him
catch the guy. Yeah,
not even catch the guy, but he was able to get Robin and actually, be able to mentor him, show him. And that's why, if you notice in the Batman
Grow
comics,
together almost.
Robin now being Nightwing is completely different from Batman.
Oh yeah, they have different personalities, different
even though
views.
they're trained the same and everything like that, but they're entitled, everything is like completely, things like that. And that was like one of the things with Robin. Like he always said, he's like, I like Batman, but I don't want to become Batman.
Yeah, I don't
like,
want to be Batman.
I don't want to be Batman. And it was just kind of like all these like, it's just kind of cool to see like.
And that's what I liked about the Jason Todd saga, because Jason Todd was like, Batman was his mentor. Like Batman was everything to him. And then when Batman like didn't kill the Joker, when he comes back, he's like, why is he not alive?
Yeah, why is he alive?
And then it was crazy because then it even went further, because in the Teen Titans, what they would do is when someone would die, they'd have a little monument or something, like a memorial, like a little statue built.
Yeah, and just
nothing was built for Jason Todd. So then it was even like this whole like, why is
there was actually.
Oh really?
If you notice, when it comes back from Young Justice in the second season, you see
that was right,
you see they're downstairs, they're going like, why aren't these up in the Justice League office? They're like, well, we don't want to let people know our tragedies or like or failures, basically. But you see Tim actually looking at another Robin, and you're just like, well, it's not Dick, and then you realize,
it's Jason Todd.
So he did get Jason, and it's like that. So it's like all these kind of things, and it's actually kind of cool. What I liked about Young Justice is like, it's not so much that Batman was training Tim, it was more Nightwing was training him.
Yeah, and in Young Justice, that's what I liked about it. But what I also liked about it too was, that whole thing about Batman. I mean, the whole thing about being a father, like that whole thing with Superman and him. But my favorite thing is like, there was a tale where Tim Drake actually was a better Robin than Jason Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so then like you had that thing. So there was a comic I was just reading about where Jason Todd like broke into Teen Titans, like took everybody out as the Red Hood, like didn't kill them, but just like knocked them unconscious or like tied them up or whatever, like just totally like owned everybody, like cyborg everybody.
Yeah.
And so then him and Tim Drake are going at it, and like he ends up like almost knocking Tim Drake out. And then he was like, Batman told me you were a better Robin. He goes, and then Tim Drake was just like, spits on him and is like, I am, and then like passed out. So he ended up like ripping the Robin like thing off his chest, but he left him alive. And he even eventually like later on said, yeah, he was a better Robin. Like I could see in his eyes that he had no fear. Like he was willing to die for his friends. Like, and he realized like, I wouldn't have done that. I would have left you for dead, because he had changed so much with like,
with everything that's happened with him.
Yeah. So I think it's cool like how. And that's why I like the New 52 when they were rebooting everything, like with Court of Owls when they were doing the party.
Yes.
And like Bruce is getting ready, but he has like Tim there, he has Drake there, Tim Drake has got Jason Todd there, he's got Dick Grayson, he's got Damian there.
Yeah.
And he has like, I guess he was using his new technology with the computer chip in his eye to kind of recognize. And like they made the joke like, well, yeah, he has to use it to remember our faces because we have so many people now that he's training. But I love that aspect of it because it's like, it's true. Like, even that whole thing with the Joker saga where he's like, like when Dick's like, we got to get this guy, and he's like, shut up. He's like, he goes, Alfred was my father. Like he raised me. And like, he's like, this is not the time for this because we just got to find the guy. Like, you don't think I want to go out there and like tear everyone apart?
Yeah. Actually, what I really liked about that, this is the New 52. This is volume 3. This is the saga called Death in the Family. And what I really liked about it, it really kind of showed like what I kind of like the Joker's take on everything, where he was kind of more like, he's like, I'm just trying to do you a favor. He's like, these guys will die, by your hand.
Yeah.
And
because of your lack of action.
Your lack of action. He's like, I'm just trying to help you out. I'm trying to get rid of, because face it, the only people who matter in your life is the villains.
Yeah.
He's like, you will always go out of your way to save us. You will go out of your way to stop us. You will do everything in your power
to try and save us.
To try to save us. But your little like friends and everything that you could care less about it. So he's like, that's why I set this up. We could have gotten rid of all of them, and then it could have just been you and me again, kind of thing. And it's just like how you see how the Joker like thinks.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's kind of true though, because it's like, think about it. He kills Jason Todd.
Yeah, to try and same thing, like get him to understand, like
get him to understand.
Now it's
and
you
then,
and me
and
again.
he was the Batman dude, beats him up, throws him in Arkham, doesn't kill him, doesn't do anything like that. So it's just kind of cool to see, like, as much as everyone thinks that the Joker, he's crazy and nuts, he kind of has a point.
And I think like that's such a beautiful design too with the Joker, because it's like, yeah, clowns are supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be for kids, but then like this clown is definitely like. But then there's also that fear. Like people have a fear of clowns, and then like that's the whole point. Is like he's because I mean like that's what's so funny. As I heard Snyder talking about it that one time, where he's like, think about it, like Court of Owls, owls and bats, like they are actually known predators, and that made sense. Like, oh yeah, that's cool, like a predator thing. but like really, there's never been a bat and a clown. Like there's never like, you never see clowns outside in the woods like jumping on bats and stuff. Like it's just like, like oh no, the elusive horned clown is out this time of night.
Those damn clowns.
Like,
get back to your circus.
So when you really think about like that aspect of it too, like there's no correlation.
There's no correlation to any of that.
But they built it like now.
But they built it like that. But that's what I also like too, if you think about it, because we'll probably go on a huge tangent about the Batman animated series, especially with the cast that they picked
alone,
for that. But the original voice of the Joker was going to be Tim Curry.
Oh,
Tim Curry, if no one knows who that is, you should. He was in Clue. He played the butler. He's been in. He does a lot that
would have been
but he was legend. The original voice.
God, that would have been a great.
And it was funny because all Mark Hamill wanted to do, he's like, I just want to work on Batman. I don't care who I am. And he actually has.
That was so good because he's in it as the guy he's Mr. Freeze
in the Mr. Freeze side. Yeah. He's got one little part in it, and then all of a sudden they called him back, going like, "Oh, something happened. We're going to need you to play this." And he comes in and he's like, "Who am I playing?" And all of a sudden, all that's on his sheet is Joker. So he's like, "Oh, okay," and I think he heard a little bit of Tim Curry, but they're like, "We don't want to go in that direction."
Tim Curry, I could imagine was very like. I can only imagine.
I want to know. I literally
now.
kind of like. Can we just do like?
Can we just start dubbing some Clue like tracks in there just to see what it would sound like? Like literally.
You start taking clips. We should do this. We should start taking clips from the Wild Thornberrys because he was the father of that, and just push that over and be no, dear, yeah.
That'd be so great. He's like, "I'm gonna put you away, Joker," and he's just like, make sure to pick up your cereal bowls and watch them. It's like, what?
But yeah, you can only imagine, like, oh, geez, how good would that been, But yeah, they had a lot of good voice acting, like especially the guy who played Mr. Freeze did a fantastic job.
I mean, alone the what's crazy is like the Kevin Conroy's version of Batman. Like that's what's so crazy about it. Oh
yes,
like he was from the get-go. You were the voice. Like that was the voice of Batman. He's done it in you think of anything, you think of that voice because it's such a he's got such a great Bruce Wayne, where it's just very
what I like about his thing is he basically the voice is Batman.
Yeah.
And the only time he changes his voice
is when it has to be
Bruce because that to him
and Bruce Wayne is more like casual, like, oh hey.
What I liked about his thing behind it, he was like, Bruce Wayne is the mask.
Yeah.
Like Batman.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne is
like
the mask.
He is Batman, but Bruce Wayne is the
that's
the identity.
What's funny is because people say that about Superman. Superman is Superman and
Clark Kent is the mask.
So it's kind of neat, another tie-in with each other. And it's true. Like that's why I like that. As most people hate the movie though, but with Katie Holmes being like, this is your mask. Like the Bruce Wayne is the mask. Like this is what you portray to the world to let people think like.
Well, no one hated Batman Begins.
No, I just think they hated Katie Holmes.
It's so what's so dumb about this? Everyone hated Katie Holmes.
But see, I would have loved to keep her in the second one had I known that they were going to blow her up.
But this is the thing, though. Everyone hated Katie Holmes, but then they bring in Maggie, forget her name, Maggie something. But yeah, she was a better actress, but everyone's like, I can't like her face. It's like, okay, what do you want, people? Yeah. It's like, you can't take one or the other. We should have done
Kevin Conroy as
Rachel. Oh, dude, what if we did that? What if we were able to take the entire Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises and change some of the voices that we wanted to change? I would leave Heath Ledger's Joker to be it because it fits for that movie. But I'm like, what if we just got Kevin Conroy to just overdub the entire thing? Like, and then when you get to Bane, we get the guy who played Bane.
Exactly. Just what if what would it sound like?
What would it sound like?
Like just make it an option on the DVD. Well, that's what I love is like if you hear they did a thing. It was on. I think it was Mark Hamill's birthday, and he was on a podcast, or he was on a panel at a Comic-Con, and someone asked him, he goes, hey, I don't want to say anything because, you does say, but goes, what was your take on Heath Ledger's Joker? Mm-hmm. And kind of the crowd was like, ooh, because obviously he's done the Joker, and he's like, I loved it. He's like, I loved his performance. I thought he did such a good job. And he goes, not any disrespect or anything. He goes, could you say any, couple lines from the movie? Mm-hmm. And then it was great because he's just sitting there for a minute, and then he just looks at the guy, and he's like, why so serious? And he does it in his version.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I could only imagine what that would have sounded like had he voiced over.
As dumb as it sounds, half of these movies that they are bringing to DVD and stuff like that, I mean, think about it. There was a Batman animated movie in theaters.
Yeah.
The Mask of the Phantasm.
There was a few, because there was the Mask of the Phantasm was the main one, and then I think the rest came straight to video.
Yeah, the rest was
the Mr. Freeze saga,
they did
which was
Sub-Zero, which was amazing as well.
Yeah, they did a few of them. Yeah, because there was and that was a great movie, because that was the first time he punches the Joker so hard that he made him bleed.
Yes.
Well, at least he probably was making him bleed all the time, but that was.
This is the first time you get to see that.
And then, like, that whole story was cool, where he was like a gangster.
Yeah.
Like, they went to more of like that route. Like, because what I like is in the saga that is the Joker, as far as we know, like, he was just a normal guy, a loser, who was failing at stuff, got bashed into this, and like that's why I love it. Is like in the New 52 where they're like, I don't know what it was. Like, was it upbringing? Was it a chemical compound in the makeup that changed him to this? Or was like, or what? Like, that's what the debacle is.
But what I really like about this is in Batman's art, this is what I really like about what they're doing with that origin story, basically, that was created by pretty much, I would say, Alan Moore, because that's when it came about, which, like, a little bit of the Joker's past was in The Killing Joke. But the Batman Arkham Origins, there's this thing where the Joker gets caught, gets sent off to Blackgate because Arkham isn't built yet, and he's sitting down, he's talking to Harley Quinn, the doctor, and stuff like that, and he's having this story about, like, you ever have those times when you meet, the perfect person and everything that, and what's funny with her is she thinks he's talking about her.
Right, she's like,
but he's sitting there and he's like going off, and then you get to play as him as the Red Hood, and you get to go through this dream sequence of, like, how he saw Batman and everything like that, and it's just like how he apparently he became who he was and stuff like that. So it was just so kind of funny, but just the guy's dialogue and how he's delivering everything is just like, it was just such a cool, like,
it's haunting, but it also was beautiful at the same time, because like you see how Harley's like, like you can see she's falling for him.
Yeah, she falls, but it's so funny, she falls for him, but you just figure like how much the Joker, like, literally, because I love that part in the thing, like, literally him and Batman go out of a window, and he goes to stab Batman, and you hit like the button, you knock it away, and you literally shoot your thing, and you come down, and you give him to the police, and of course the police are after you because this is your hey, you're a vigilante or whatnot, and you take off and you leave him there, and the officer's like, I have no idea why the hell he saved you.
Well, your partner,
he's like, your partner saved you. He's like, he's not my partner. He's like, yeah, if it was your partner, I would have let you just died or whatnot.
You can see him in the car,
and he's in the car, and he sits there, he's like, I don't know why the hell he saved you, and he walks away, and the Joker's like, yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
And you can see like the wheels are turning, then he's like wondering, like, why,
and that's why I kind of also, that's why I always think like the Joker is such a good villain. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good villains out there, but the Joker is such a good villain because he's the one that is trying, like, literally, he wants Batman to kill him.
Yeah.
That's what he wants.
That's what he wants. He wants him to cross that line.
He wants him to do everything in his possible power.
Because ultimately, if Batman, if he pushes him far enough that he does that, he's no longer Batman. Like, he kills Batman.
Yes.
Because you've crossed that barrier of, like, you've killed... Well, that's why I liked it in the Dark Knight Returns, where, like, literally the Joker kills himself, but it was, like, with Batman's, like, arm or whatever. Like, he breaks his own neck, but it was a way for him to be like, haha, like,
I win or whatnot.
Yeah, because that's what he said. I think that was his last words. He's like, I win, and then, like, he breaks his own neck. And you're just like, Jesus. You're like, that's Jesus. How... But then it was true, though, like you said, like, it's like that whole dynamic of, like, that's what I loved about it, too. Like, someone brought it up about, like, well, if Batman goes away, all of his villains go away. If Batman wasn't here, none of these villains would be here. So then it's like, it brings up a good point. Like, well, really?
Well, that is true. I mean, Batman goes to retirement, all the villains, but then you see what happened. A new kind of threat
came through,
takes over or whatnot. But it's still kind of like that, dynamic. It's like as soon as Batman goes away, it's like, yeah, villains lose their purpose. But if you think about most of the villains, like, really, but that's what I like about Batman, because a lot of the villains really do affect, like, his lifestyle. Like, him and Harvey Dent were best friends. And then Harvey Dent gets hit with acid and becomes Two-Face, and it's like Batman's always trying to reason with him. He's always trying to tell him there is a way to, go back. There is a, you can become, yourself again, and everything like that. What I like about Enigma, the Riddler, is he wants to be the smartest man alive, but the only person who can keep outsmarting him is Batman. So that's his whole goal, going like, I gotta outsmart this guy. What I like about the Penguin, though, Penguin really isn't like too much of a threat. He's more. And
I like the different versions that they've gone through.
The Penguin's more of a threat to actually Bruce Wayne, because him and the Waynes and the Cobblepots have a long brooding history and everything like that. But what I like about Penguin, especially when they redid the Batman animated series, when they updated a little bit of the artwork and things changed. I know a lot of people didn't like the black Joker eyes.
I didn't mind it too much.
But the Penguin, they made him like, they kind of brought him back to the 1966 Penguin.
Exactly.
And he owned his own club, but then he's owned his own club, and everything like that. He was an entrepreneur again, but then you see on the side he has arms dealing and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's, to me, that's what the Penguin was. The Penguin was always a character. He was very like, sure, he had like the long nose, and he was short, and he was a little heavy, and that's where he got his name, the Penguin.
Yeah,
but
like
he was a gentleman. He was smart. He was intelligent, and he knew what he was doing and stuff like that. And he was still, but that made him a threat to his thugs, because he would always.
And I like it because, like, in Arkham Origins, they really brought him in, and he saw that he was still very sly, but he was still kind of very, like he was a crooked man, like he was very like kind of stuff.
And I like that.
And I like all the different versions of them because, like you said, in the cartoon show, or even in the old 1960s Batman, like he was more of like he was always like doing something, like it was an arms deal or stealing or theft or robbery. It's always a robbery or something. Yeah. And so then it was like, stopped him, and like he had all his little tricks with like his
his umbrellas,
and stuff. It was like he had gadgets too. Like that was also a tie-in with him and like the Batman. And then what was interesting is always like in the cartoon, like I think they did him where he was very grotesque, like that whole opera
because like they did the first
reformed and
they did the first Batman run. It was literally right after the Batman Returns movie,
right?
So they had a lot of the characters, and then that's how they kind of designed their Penguin. But when they did the revamp, like Catwoman was all black. In the first one she had like the black and the gray,
and then she also had blonde hair. Like that was the thing too. Is like all throughout most of her run, like she was usually portrayed by somebody who was brunette.
Yeah, she was either. I thought she was black hair, like she had.
And she also was African American. Like in one version, she was a black.
That's true.
Black cat as well. Like she was also that. And then I think like it wasn't until Michelle Pfeiffer came that they did blonde, and then of course like it tied into the animated series. But then what's crazy is like now everyone knows her as the black hair, either short hair or just dark hair.
Yes,
because it makes more sense, I guess, because of like the whole black. Like,
and also in the New 52, she's no longer a hooker. So
that's always good. Yeah, because that was always weird too. Like
that was Frank Miller's take when he did Year One.
Yeah,
like he made her a hooker or whatnot,
and she was heavy too, right? Later on, didn't she like in the Batman Returns, like she's like overweight or something?
Yeah, she gets a little heavier. Or whatever, but then you just see how time, takes over
obviously. Yeah, like you see, like what would have happened without a Batman? Like she would have had to gone into. Other things.
But I will say those Catwoman comic books, the new reboots, are really fun to read because it's like as much as you think like they're gonna pull their punches, they're not gonna. No, she fights, holds her own, and kicks some ass, but sometimes she gets like beat up and she's like bleeding.
What I love is seeing her in like the Long Halloween.
Oh yeah,
like she fights side by side with them, and you see how she can.
And Hush
alone is like. Where
Hush to
see,
me
like,
is like,
Jesus.
Okay, guys, for Valentine's Day, if you're a comic book nerd, these are the two books you should actually definitely get your significant other.
Yeah,
is Mad Love.
Yeah, oh yeah,
which is great because it's not only written by Paul Dini, it's also the same artist of the Batman animated series. His name escapes right now, and he's probably gonna hit me and be like, "I hate your face."
I'm on Twitter. I hate you.
And then Hush.
Yeah.
Because that's done by Jim Lee's artwork, and it's just phenomenal, just like how he does everything. But it's really kind of sad because as much as they're trying to bring like Batman into the real world, that's how the Christopher Nolan books were, and that's why we didn't get certain characters. Like to be honest, I would love to see a Clayface in a movie.
Was it Bruce Timm?
Yes, Bruce Timm. Bruce Timm. I would love to see Clayface.
Yeah,
in a movie. I would love to see Mr. Freeze done right in a movie.
Well, see, that's what I like is like with the Zack Snyder, we're going to see more fantasy. Obviously two giant men who fly and shoot lasers out of their eyes doesn't exist in this world, thank God.
Yeah.
But like we can like go, oh, cool. So like you can finally now push that boundary of like, you could see a Clayface in this realm, as a Solomon Grundy, things like that. You can see these characters in this realm, whereas the Chris Nolan was more doing it like if this was real life. If this really would happen, like, would the guy have like fallen in an acid pit? No, he probably would have died of chemical poisoning. Mm-hmm. But like, a guy who's just crazy enough to paint his face,
to mutilate his face,
a guy who's just got pain in his mouth, so he wears a contraption to keep the pain at bay. Like, you could see that physically happening. Because I mean, that's the best part about Bane was like, really wasn't anything to him. He didn't get massive size, but he was built and he just had focus, and like that was the whole point. Is like I was born in the dark too. Like you can't.
You think you're dark as your friends? You merely just adapted it. I was born in it.
Yeah.
I do feel though. This was my take. If they would have had the Riddler in Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. My whole theory would have been because Batman's a vigilante now, he had to tell the city of Gotham to hunt him now, all this kind of stuff. Instead of Batman kind of retiring and whatnot, I think the coolest part would have been Riddler showing up, because actually Tavis Maiden told me there's actually was a run of Riddler comics where Riddler actually stopped crime and became a detective.
Yeah, so then it made
was so
sense
smart,
that
and then that would be a good way because
then up puzzles and stuff for Batman
to find and everything like that. But then you find out he really just wanted to kill Batman. I mean, I don't know who they would have casted or whatnot. Maybe Eddie Murphy.
You never know. That was rumored. Then Johnny Depp was rumored.
Yeah, Johnny Depp was
and
rumored.
Then when they casted Jason Gordon-Levitt, I kind of was like, he would make a good Riddler. He would have done a really good job because he kind of has that, persona. And then when they did the whole like 8 years later and gave him a hobo beard,
the hobo beard
and everything.
So is that what? So I think.
So think about it, like Superman, hobo beard. Batman, hobo beard. Like, we're going to have to see the Flash in a hobo,
Hobo
beard,
beard.
and then Wonder Woman in a
And
hobo,
hobo
beard.
beard.
That's how they're just going to have to do it to tell the story.
This is the problem though, because you're gonna have Aquaman. He'll already have his beard, and he'll have to shave it off.
He'll have to hipster it. He'll have to shave it off. I had a beard before it was cool.
Yeah, I had a beard before it was cool.
That's what they'll have to do.
The fish is like, why are you talking to me? I have no friends.
Yeah, I'm the only
I'm
buddy
alone
like that.
in this world. But there's all this kind of. Now, what I'm curious about, I know we're just jumping off topic here with everything.
That's the beauty of Batman.
But what I'm curious about with the new movie coming up, and I know like their plans are, it's like Batman's going to be in it. Batman's not going to get another movie of his own yet until like they start trying to build up the DC universe. But do you think they're ever going to try to do with the new Batman, aka Batfleck, which everyone's talking about?
Or whatever.
Are they going to think they're ever going to introduce a Robin into this one?
I don't know, because he is older, so they could do like the dark. They could do Nightwing. They could do like all these different things, because like it's like, well, I mean, if they're doing where he's older, like, is he already established?
See, that's the thing, because that's what they're talking about a lot. They're saying like, okay, Superman just came out, basically.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I'm
yeah,
here.
he just showed up.
He
like,
just showed
hey
up.
guys.
But according to them, with Batman being older, he's been at this for a little bit and stuff like that. So literally, they like people. I mean, I think it was Kevin Smith even said, it's like you could literally do like Batman running on a rooftop chasing after like one of his villains or whatnot. And everyone knows, okay, Batman's established. Everyone knows Batman. It's like, why do we have to keep establishing these origin stories for everything, you know? It's like, that's the same thing with the Spider-Man movie. It's like, the next Spider-Man's going to come out. He has all these villains that are going to be in it. But now I'm like, okay, these are 3 villains that you're now going to have to establish their origin story.
Right. And like, I know like people are saying that, okay, we obviously know we're going to have Luthor. Wonder Woman's now going to be in it. You have Batman in it, Superman. It's like
Dwayne Rock Johnson. This is what I
Yeah.
love. Dwayne Rock Johnson was casted to be in the new Superman Batman movie, and everyone right off the bat is like, he's going to be the next Green Lantern. I'm all like, there's so many other
Dwayne
people
Rock
he could
Johnson,
be.
yeah. I mean,
You
yeah,
know who
I'm
he
trying to
should
think
You
about.
know who he should be? I'm Black Vault.
Yeah, he could be. I was trying to think like he could either be like Cyborg, because he would play a good Cyborg.
God, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, he could be Cyborg. Like that would be so good.
God.
Yeah.
That did not even
Yeah,
like
it
everybody
didn't
else on Facebook
Yeah,
was
it's like
all like,
going
it's going to
on,
be the next Green
"Durr."
Lantern. I was all like,
Which he could be. I mean, he could do that. But to me, like, he strikes me as a cyborg.
no,
Because
actually-
Cyborg was an athlete. He got
Yeah.
injured. His father saved him. He had all the technology. Like,
Oh
he
my
has that
God.
more of a mindset. And because he's a smart guy. Like, he has
no.
You know,
Oh god, I didn't fucking
Yeah.
think of that. That's
I
such a
still
good
think
idea.
Eldred Ibris as like Martian Manhunter would be phenomenal.
I'm trying to think.
If you ever seen him, he's on the show called Luther.
Yes.
He's also been in that. He was in the Mandela movie. Like that was his
Yes.
recent thing. And of course, if you haven't seen it, which I don't understand why not, Pacific Rim. He was the general.
Yeah, he would be
He
an
was the
also
guy who was
Martian
like,
Manhunter.
Yeah, he's like, you know.
But who would play? See, everyone's always going to Hal Jordan for Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I'm like, why don't we go with
John,
John was it John Smith?
I think it was John Smith or John Stewart almost.
Oh, John Stewart. That was it.
Yeah, Joan, or it was like, but it was spelled where it was
Yeah.
like Jonn or stuff.
Yeah. But I'm like, why don't we just get like a Black Lantern in there? I mean, as much as like when he
Yeah, I
showed
mean,
up,
they're showing him as Joan Stewart, which I'm like, yeah, in the old one, remember he was like the bald guy with the
Yeah.
goatee. Like, yeah, he could do. I mean, yeah, he could do it. But still, people are talking about the other guy, the guy who played Conan the Barbarian. He's also been casted in the new Man of Steel, and everyone's like, well, he's going to be. But when you look at his face, it says Lobo all over it. Like,
Oh, really?
Like when you look at him, he looks like Lobo.
Oh, that'd be
and
cool.
I think to me, like that's. But they're not. Again, they're not saying what he's going to be.
Yeah,
he could
they
just
always
be
do
like.
that. But then again,
he could be the assistant to the Daily Planet. Like, who knows what they're going to do? With
But
it,
you know what
know?
they're gonna do?
Dwayne will be the copy guy. He'll be just like,
Yeah.
hi guys. Like,
Yeah. No, he's the new. What was it Ricky Olsen? Or,
yeah, like instead of
Jimmy
Jimmy Olsen, because they
Jimmy
had
Olsen.
Jane Olsen.
Jane
in the
Olsen, that
movie.
was-
They'll have
yeah.
it as like, oh, this is my brother Jimmy, and he'd be like, hi guys. Rips. He's like rips his shirt.
He's like huge with like they don't even give him like an actual fitting shirt. You just see
Yeah.
like the buttons barely holding on for your life. Oh my god, that'd be great.
I want to be your best friend.
Yeah.
Wait for me. And then it's funny because then you have Jane, Henry Cavill standing next to him, being like, "Kind of big there, man.
Yeah.
I don't know about this.
I ate my vegetables.
I eat all my fruits and vegetables. We're best friends."
But yeah, we're not gonna get to see that movie until 2016.
Yeah, we got
so.
pushed back now, which I'm like, hey, whatever, take all the time you want because everyone.
Well, I'll put it this way, okay.
They teased the crap out of Man of Steel, and I thought it was a great movie. A lot of people shitting on it, but then it's like they're gonna shit on this movie too, no matter what you do.
I don't care. I even said the same thing. They could have even casted Christian Bale. Could be like, I'm gonna come back and play Batman, and everyone would still be pissed.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Because you know
you're
why?
the
Everyone's going like, oh, he's gonna keep doing that voice and all that stupid stuff. So it's like at this point of the game, no one's gonna win. I mean, heck, no one's really happy with what's his name, the guy they picked for Ant-Man.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like at this point, I don't think anyone's gonna be happy with anything. At this point, you could literally cast like what's his face, Bill Cosby for something, and I was like, what? No, he can't be in that.
Yeah, it's interesting because people are like, yeah, Dwayne the Rock Johnson up for Green Lantern, which is like, I can see him as John, but like to me, like either Eldra Ibris as Green Lantern. If they're gonna go green, go black. Like go blacker than a mother. Like don't just make it like, hey, he's kind of black. And, we could paint him black. Like Lewis Black. Like they put him in there. I'm the Green Lantern.
In darkest day,
brightest night,
no freaking evil shall escape my sight.
It's like, what are you doing? Yeah, that's pretty good though. Like, I mean, seriously, like, I'm Gilbert Gottfried and I'm the Oa.
I'm Guilford Godfrey and I'm Martian Manhunter.
Oh my goodness,
Superman.
No, I already said he needs to play Mixoplex.
Yeah, that's how they got to bring him. That'd be pretty sweet.
But yeah, there's so many stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how big the movie's going to be, but I think it's a smart move because they're pushing it back to 2016. And because, I mean, look, 2014, we got the X-Men movie. We got the new Captain America movie. We have, what's it called? Spider-Man. And then next year, we're going to get, and then at the end of the summer, we got Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's true.
And then the next year, we got the next Avengers movie. So it's like, they might just be waiting for their thing going like, well, we want to get as much money as possible. Let's see what small movie, franchise they're going to have until then.
That looks pretty cool. Some fan made a fan-made poster, and they had, I don't know who this actor is. I think it's Joaquin Phoenix. They took him and like made him bald and stuff. But what they did is they put all these things in him. He looks like Brainiac, and it looks really cool.
Ooh.
Like, and I was like, oh man, like they have so many things that they could go with. I mean, you got such a good
that's actually
array.
what I really liked about the Man of Steel movie. They did have all that technology. What Brainiac,
it was there. Like what I really liked was like when you saw that part where that World Destroyer was blowing up the thing and had those tentacles come out.
Yeah,
because to me that's like that's Brainiac technology.
Brainiac,
like 101.
So, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Wow, we really got off of our Batman topic.
Back to, but see, it's all dealing with Batman because, like, Batman's in a movie now. And, like, how is that going to play into the world of Man of Steel? And, like, are they going to get into kryptonite and kryptonite gloves and, like, punt the ring? Are they going to get into that whole thing? Like, here's a ring or here's some brass knuckles I made you. Like, are they going to get into that? Like, I mean, there's so much to talk about because I was like, what version of Batman? Like, is it going to be blue and, gray?
Oh yeah, they've been talking about that. They don't know if he's going to be all black. They don't know if it's going to go to the black and the gray like it has been.
There's even one where he has like a face mask. I mean, they can do all kinds of things.
I mean,
armor, like. I mean, if you're going after the Man of Steel too, I mean, you really have to think about like how are they going to portray it? Like, are they going to do like Frank Miller's with him being like giant
in
metal?
That suit, yeah.
Because I mean, that was a pretty powerful thing.
So I mean, there's so much. Yeah, I mean, we like that's the thing. As much as everyone wants to bitch and complain about what's going to happen, and stuff like that. Now, I don't know. I mean, as much as I did like enjoying reading the Flash comic, I don't know how I feel about. I would like to see Flash more as a TV show, but I don't know why they need to do a feature and a TV show.
You see, I think where they were smart, if they
because
were
then
really
smart, you have to have two actors for that.
See, if they were really smart, what they would start doing now on the Marvel one, the Shield, have the Falcon on. Like, put him on there. Show him what he can do. Show people what he's capable of. Start building his rapport. So when they see him in the movie, it won't be so like, oh, who's that? Oh, I need the backstory.
Yeah.
Like, you could start doing things like that. Like, you could start telling the story about those things. You can start telling the stories of like the Guardians of the Galaxy or things like that. You can start doing stuff like that.
That's what I don't
get.
And
that's like with Arrow, you could do the same thing. Like start introducing characters.
Well, they started doing that. Like they started introducing Black Canary. They started introducing like all these different.
Because when they did it with Smallville, they did a very quick like Justice League thing where they had an episode where there was a guy who could swim in water, and somehow he came to like Smallville to stop like the pollution in this lake or pollution that was then bleeding into the ocean.
Yeah, then they had the Hawkman.
They had the Hawkman. They had They did an episode where they had Arrow. They had a whole bunch of him. Like that was when they first kind of saw that he was popular because he was a good-looking guy and stuff. They started doing that. Then they did have a short story with a character who could run really fast, but they made him more where he was a thief. Like that's what the whole thing was. Like he was running really fast and stealing from people. And obviously Superman could see him because he was like, oh yeah, I can follow your movements because you're, my.
It's funny to me because I think as much
they had Cyborg. That was actually unfortunately the guy who passed away. That young kid who passed away from a drug overdose a while ago. He was on the show and he was kind of like the cyborg character.
Cyborg, okay.
And like a lot of people are like, oh, he's a really good actor. He's really good. He'd be really good for it. Like literally like the model of cyborg that is on like all the cartoon shows was based almost on him.
Oh, okay.
He didn't have like the metal face and stuff. He was more like just normal looking, but like that was a part where like he got hit by a car, then you could see like the metal underneath kind of thing.
See, that's the funny part with like the Man of Steel movie. As much as everyone throwing Batman in them, I'm like, I understand you want to start putting more superheroes in the movie, but obviously a great way to start off the Man of Steel 2 movie would literally to be a great way to introduce the Flash and him and Superman have that race around the world.
Yeah,
because
like,
there was that storyline
from
that
Star
was
Labs.
in that Superman.
And that's why I love that animated series, because they touch base on so many characters. Like, same thing. In Batman animated series, they were bleeding in with characters that we knew of the Puppet Master, we knew of like Clayface, but they really like pushed them out. Like, no one knew him as a monstrosity.
Yeah.
Like, they always thought of him as like the guy who could just change his appearance. Like, that's how he was able to do all these crimes. But like the fact that he became just like this giant mass of like, you know. Just,
my
like,
favorite one actually was the one where Clayface returns. It was in the updated version when it was Tim Drake as Robin, and Tim Drake finds this girl, and she's all like, "I need help" and stuff like that.
Oh, and it turns out,
and then you find out it's a piece of Clayface that comes back, and it's like, okay, we're slowly building, like, as he tries to. So she was stealing chemicals. Like, he would send a little piece of him out there as disguised as this little girl, and would come back to slowly build him back up and everything like that. So I mean, it's just kind of cool to think about like all these.
And then remember
things.
there was that whole Batman saga where like the town of Gotham was being replaced by the androids. I don't know if you remember that storyline. It was like one of their first 2-parter episodes. There was that giant computer that was built in this warehouse somewhere and had like a red eye, and like then all of a sudden Batman was like almost hooking up with like the reporter lady, but she turned out to be like the android. Like, her face ripped off, and it was like also the same thing. Like, oh my god! But then like same thing with like Metallo and all these other characters. Like, that was a good storyline too, of that kind of like same like caliber of like. You can start introducing elements that are just like, oh my goodness, like you could do anything. Like,
that's
like
what
I said,
get. It's like
race around the world. You could do it where literally he's they had the whole there was that whole storyline with the small town, you know, like a town shrinks. Maybe even started with Brainiac or something.
I really wish that DC would have taken a page out of Marvel's book with, at the end of the credits, they could start the ball rolling with stuff. They could start putting things at the end, and you go, oh, okay, and stuff like that. I mean, they did that.
I think what I would have loved to have seen, like, had they already known that they would casted like Ben Affleck, like how cool would it have been to see some guy like doing like combos on like a metal thing, like he's kung fuing, and like his screen goes off and Alfred like comes down saying, "So have you seen this?" And he's be like, "I'm working on it," or something like that. Like, that's all you hear, and that would have just been enough to be like, "Oh, well,
not
God.
Even that. I mean, you could have. That's what I'm saying. You could have ended so many ways. There's that way. There's the way where it's just all like all you just see is like this much, and you know it's Lex Luthor. It says like Lex Luthor on his desk. He's all like, "Huh, this is a new kind of event." Or even better, you could have even shot it all the way in space. Had some guy going, "Oh, there seems to be one less Kryptonian. Would you go get that for me?" And then it's Lobo,
yeah.
And you're just like, there's so much stuff you could have just like,
oh, it looks like the Kryptonian is now on the endangered list.
On this endangered list. And then you could have literally done like, even because Batman Begins was the only one that did that. Literally at the end, he's like, "Oh, nice touch with the light and everything that," and then he's all like, "Oh yeah, there's this guy. He's like you. He's got a thrill for the theatrics and stuff like that." And he hands him the Joker card, and you're like, "Okay, so set it up."
Build it.
But then other than that, it's like you could just take a fucking page out of Marvel's book. Just do it.
Do something cool for the fans. Like, I think for me, what would have been the dealer for me was like have a body like on a slab. They open up the bag and it's Zod, and have him be like, "What am I supposed to do with this, sir?" And like obviously he'd like Lex Luthor or Mr. Luthor, and have him be like, he goes, "Oh, we'll be using it for experiments," and then have him just say something like, "Don't tell Wayne," and like just leave it like that, and you would have been like, "Holy shit!" Like what are the possibilities now?
See, because that's the only way I can see Batman tying in with the Superman movie right now.
Because obviously he's going to come to Metropolis with a Wayne like Lex thing.
I understand
obviously
that it's got to be something with the Wayne, because that's what they did. Literally, like
they did that with the
Kevin
Jade
Smith,
Dragon. Yeah.
Kevin Smith told Paul Dini, who actually wrote that Batman Superman crossover before Superman got before they had like their own shows and stuff like that. But literally, that's what they did. It was Bruce Wayne came to Metropolis to do he was doing a business deal with Lex Luthor or whatnot, supposedly. But really, Wayne was there to kind of inspect because he knew something was fishy with Luthor
and he started building the robots
and all this kind of stuff. So I mean, there's like so much stuff you could like do with it. It's just
and that's why I loved it, because then it also had that whole aspect about like Bruce and like Lois, and then you're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? And obviously because she like Clark hadn't even tried anything, he hadn't even asked her out, hadn't done anything, and like obviously she could like Superman, but same thing, he'd be like, "So long, like see you, Lois," and she'd be just like, "Right, like like you don't want to do anything." So then like that whole the whole thing with Lex and the Joker, like that whole thing was like brilliant.
Oh, I love when they did that in the Justice League where the Joker comes back. And...
Oh, I love it, because that's like how they caught Batman. Like they used him, like we knew we have somebody for that, and like they used like the Joker's like insight to how to get Batman, and that whole episode Joker's just like, "Let's kill him, let's do it."
I love that. Like Joker's
like,
"No, let's kill him." He's like, "Don't leave him alone." Like he's saying like all these things, he's gonna to do.
And then I love it because then like Lex is the one who's very much like, "No, we're gonna use him to catch the others, and this is how we're gonna do it." And that's the best line ever, is when he puts his hands in his pockets, walks away, like, and people say I'm crazy,
yeah,
because it's like like he's the one who's like, he knows what's going on.
Oh, God.
And that was such a good episode because like he turned everyone against themselves. Like that's what I thought was great. It's like Batman's like, all right, I'll get out of there. And like he convinces the cheetah to let him go, and this person did this.
What was
and
it?
then he paid.
He paid Grog.
Yeah, he just paid Grog off because that's all Grog cared about. He just wanted some more money, and he's like, oh, you were outpaid. I was like, that's genius.
Yeah,
like how
it's so funny. But I also like the little trick thing is like the voice of the Flash was the Lex Luthor in Smallville, which I don't even know why they don't even pick that guy.
I know, seriously, like he'd be a good character.
He's older now, so it works perfect. It's like I don't know. There's so many castings. That's what I hate when they literally said Joaquin Phoenix for Lex Luthor. I was kind of like, okay, are you just shooting names out of a barrel?
I think what
now?
would have been hilarious is you had I think if they wanted to do like a funny ending, is you have like 4 guys sitting on like a bus stop, like waiting to go, and like have it say like Man of Steel, like man saves Metropolis, blah blah, alien thing averted, and you just have like literally like Tim Daly like come down and be like, do you believe this? And like they just have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
Then it's like, Conroy being like, I don't understand this like whole thing. It's like it's rattles my cages. I can't even believe it. And then like at the end he's like, what do you think, Mark? And have just Mark Hamill be like, I have the strangest. It's like just have like a whole.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go a
tribute.
different route with that. I thought you were literally gonna be like, it's 4 people on a bus, and it's Kevin Spacey.
Oh yeah, that would be even better.
It's the guy who plays the guy from Smallville.
Yeah.
It's Gene Hackman.
Oh, that would have been even better. Like all these people,
all
like,
the people who played Lex Luthor.
Know what I do? I make them all janitors in Lex Luthor Corp.
Oh my.
Like that's what I would do. Just make them all like out there sweeping the floors, like get back to work, and be like,
I used to be somebody.
I used to be somebody. Yeah, exactly.
We just wrote Man of Steel 2, people.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, folks.
Get
on it.
They're like, all they did was focus on these 3
There
janitors.
was no plot hole. Yeah, there's so many plot holes, so many stains in that movie, and only the Man of Steel could clean it up with the help of Batman.
You missed a spot.
Yeah, it's just like
you missed a spot.
Like all these like catchphrases come from that,
Speaking of Dark Knight, did you know Heath Ledger's in the background in the?
You were mentioning that to me the other day, like where you're saying if you look into the back where
there's
the restaurant scene.
Yeah, there's a restaurant scene.
Is that when he's introducing the girl?
Yeah, when
like
the girl comes
ballerina?
in. Yeah, so if you look closely, there's a picture. There's a scene where Heath Ledger, you can actually see his face. He's not in makeup or anything. That you just notice the hair and like his face, and then it does a back view, and you just see him again in the back. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they actually threw that in there. And like, I mean, the movie's been out for like 4 years now, and I think
people are still finding
just
stuff. Yeah,
discovered it. So,
yeah, I'm gonna pull that up. I think the best one I found for you guys was like I think Kevin Smith and them talked about it too. I was like, what do they call it? The one where it's like all these eyes have seen it, but it still hits the theaters and they still have mistakes made in it.
Yeah. Shit that should not be.
Shit that should not be. That's what it was. It was a shit that should not be. That was like the Dark Knight Rises. It's the rooftop scene with Catwoman and Batman fighting.
Yeah, and
if you look at like one of the henchmen, he just like falls over. Like he doesn't even do it. He like goes like back and forth, and then just like falls over. He doesn't even get punched or nothing.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wait a minute. Like that's like either the best henchman or the worst henchman.
I would think it was a smart henchman because he's like, I'm not getting my ass kicked by a guy dressed as a bat.
Oh yeah, they're showing it here, like as a clip of the shot of Heath Ledger just sitting there, like, oh hey, yeah, and he's like right there, right in front, just like, hey, don't mind me.
Yeah, but it's like you wouldn't even think to look for him because it's like, why would he be there?
Yeah.
So
there's a few of them like that. That looks pretty good though.
Rachel.
But
yeah, so I don't know where we want to put a pin in this because we're almost to about an hour and 30 minutes on this. My
goodness. Well, we can put a pin. I guess what we'll do is we'll say like we can stop here and we'll just say like tune in next time, kids, for an all new continuation.
Yeah, we'll tune. We'll get
of just the Batman.
Of just the Batman. I think next time we'll talk about we'll go to the first 2 Tim Burton movies.
Yeah, we can start film
the animated series and then continue from there
to, like
now. But hopefully this was enjoyable for you. I
had a good time.
Kyle and I just wrote Man of Steel 2, so
there you go. Janitors. We got your 4 janitors picked for the scene. We told you how to end it multiple ways. That's all it should be, just a movie of endings. Just show like all these possibilities of like what are they gonna do, and then tell Ben Affleck to come on our show because we told him how
like
to do
he's not busy.
Yeah, I'm not doing nothing.
Kyle, where can they find us at?
They can find us all here at Longboxcast on Twitter. Tune in next week when Steve and I will continue our discussion of the Batman and everything that he does that is magic. You can also find us on our website, longboxcast.com. And I think on Facebook as well under Longboxcast. How about you, Steve? Where can they find you?
You can find me on pretty much mostly any show of the 4i Radio Network now, www.4iradio.com. There's another show, actually, me, Aaron, and Clay will be doing now. This is going to be a Star Wars podcast.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
Talk about Batman on that.
I don't know the theme of everything. Well, Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
I can tie. I'm going to
tie it all in.
Okay, you know that was 90.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, 60 degrees to Kevin Bacon. I'm doing 60 degrees to Batman now. Yeah. So
hey, there's that picture of him on a shark using a lightsaber.
There you go. So yeah,
how to get it?
Batman.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Yeah. So there's that going on. Then I still have this other cartoon podcast I'm working on, and then hopefully I'll get my monster podcast. So basically, I should just be the poster boy for 4i Radio.
I'm the 4i Radio.
I am the 4i Radio. But yeah, you can find me at Stephen Mooney Jr. on the Twitter. You can also follow me on Instagram at SMooney Jr. Don't forget to check out all the other great shows on the podcast, such as Starfleet Escape, Socially Awkward, The Fro Show, the Majesty Seeker podcast, all those great things. You can find them all on www.4iradio.com. And do we ever come up with a sign out for this? Should we just say like same cast channel?
Yeah, we could do that. Like listen to us here at the Fern, the same cast time, same cast channel.
There we go. You can listen to us at the Fern on the same cast time and same cast channel, old chum.
Holy podcasting RSS feed, Batman.
Oh, nice. I like that. Took us 4 episodes.
Yeah, we got it. This has been another fine production of the 4i Radio Network. For more shows and or orgasmic experiences, visit 4iRadio.com. Holy gee willy, go Batman! Try it again.
Holy crap, Steve, you fucked that up. Pow, kazam, shazam! I hate that kid.